Today is the day of the first reading vlog of 2025. Um, Took me a while to read this book. It's the first video of 2025 for the channel. Took me a while to read this book, and I'm going to talk to you about it. And it's a pretty serious book. So I want to let you all know that there might be some triggering stuff talked about in this. And just let me see here. What kind of content warning could I give? We're going to talk about women in the turn of the century, in turn of the 1900s. We're going to talk about women in industry. We're going to talk about um, workplace, workman's comp type stuff, um, injuries and diseases caught from occupations. We're going to talk about women victimized by industry. Just a lot of stuff. So if you practice self care, yeah, let's. If any of these kind of terms is going to be something that's rough for you, or you get to a point in something I'm talking about here and you're just, look, I'm not going to know if you turn the video off, right? So just um, do what's right for you, you know? I'm going to try my best to present this in a respectable way. I always try to do that, but I'm trying to do it in a way that shows care. So just stick with me. I'll stick with you, and we'll get through this. So yeah, but let's take a look. Wanted to take a pause there and get that out of the way, but um I don't even really think I told you who I am. My name is Carrie Quinn. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This is the officially unofficial geek channel, and here I am a author, commentator, reviewer on popular culture, a lot of comic books, popular culture, movies. Gonna try to work in some more music, but books, movies, comic books, commentary on things that happen. Going to try to do more of that. Looking to try in 2025 and do more writing in regards to that. Also, writing. Going to finish writing a novel this year. I'm going to be announcing officially my fourth volume of poetry to be self published. I'm going to be announcing that very soon. I'm going to finish the novel I started writing last year, and then I'll make that announcement. So stay tuned on top of everything else that I'm doing. If you want to, this to kind of give you a little bit of a extra special glimpse into the mind that is me, um, please follow me on Instagram at officially unofficial geek. Please follow me on here. If you haven't liked the channel yet, please like the channel, or more like subscribe, like the video, comment. I want to know what you guys think of what I'm about to talk about. Anyways, to give you a little bit more information about what we do here, if you're new here, um, I do a lot of reviews. I kind of just refer to them more as like a vlog, so that it just to keep things a little bit more free. But I talk about what I read, what I consume, what I consume in my head, what I read, what I listen to, what I watch. Um, yeah. So follow me on Instagram at officially unofficial geek. If you want to keep up with what I am currently reading, please consider joining and downloading the app Storygraph. Storygraph is something I found and I started doing recently, where I'm basically documenting my reading and what I'm reading, kind of like Goodreads, but not Goodreads. Um, and if you are on Storygraph currently, I am not following, well, no, scratch that. I am following my boyfriend because I convinced him to get on Storygraph as well. So I am only following my boyfriend right now. So if you go to follow me on Storygraph, I will follow you back. My name on Storygraph is Carrie underscore the OUG. Pretty simple. Carrie, my name, my first name, spelled out, right? And then underscore, and then the THEOUG. So you're very welcome to join me over on Storygraph. I'm going to start mentioning that a lot more in all my videos. Follow me there. Follow me on Instagram. I'm still heavily considering Blue Sky. Haven't made the official decision yet, but once I have that first video I do, I will let y'all know that information. I am planning to officially shut down my Twitter account that I barely use on January 20th. I'm going to be doing that. Um, you can guess why. Um, and yeah, so we're going to do that. So follow me on Instagram at officially unofficial geek, and then at Storygraph Carrie underscore the OUG. Um, so tell your friends about me. Get people in here. Check out my stuff. I try to be entertaining, and I hope that you find me entertaining, and I hope you guys like what I talk about. And if you don't, that's cool too. You don't have to like everything I talk about, but maybe you like me, and that's cool too. Um, but yeah, working on possible stuff for this year, especially at the beginning of this year. Um, yeah, yeah, so keep the lookout. Hit that notification bell once you um, subscribe to the channel. We'll go a long way. But anyways, guys, so today, all that crap out of the way, let's get into this. Um, I read something I've been meaning to read about. It's a nonfiction book, okay, which is a little bit different than what I normally read. But it is a story, and you know what? I'm going to be putting a little bit more nonfiction into my reading this year, here and there. Not everything, but here and there. I've got this one I'm going to talk to you about today. I've got a biography. Well, it's a kind of an autobiography with a contributing writer, waiting in the wings. Okay, I see it. It's right over there. Waiting in the rings, waiting in the wings. Um, is a autobiography of. This is just probably a couple months down the road. I might do a video on this um, autobiography of Matt Pinfield. It's called All These Things That I've Done, My Insane uh, Probable Rock Life. I had to look because it's a long title. I had to look over there to say it. This is literally, like I said, sitting right over there. Um, if you are a person of a certain age, like a Gen Xer or a millennial, you probably know exactly who, especially if you had cable and you watched MTV, you know exactly who Matt Pinfield is. Matt Pinfield was, at least during my formative years, was the host, was a MTV VJ, and most prominently the host of a MTV video music show called 120 Minutes. 120 minutes was kind of the place you went for alternative, alternative punk, rock, heavy metal, all that stuff. I mean, Ricky Rackett, Mickey Rackham, I think is what his name was, had Headbangers Ball as well. But for the alternative scene, for the weird kids, it was all about 120 minutes, hosted by Matt Pinfield. Um, it was a great show, and I can't wait to read the book. Okay, sorry, had to got a phone call, had to pause the video. So if it seems all like weird and discombobulated, that's why. So I have the Matt Pinfield book, Waiting in the Wings. I am not reading it yet. I am reading something else right now, other than what I just finished that I'm going to talk to you about today. That you saw on the thumbnail. That's why you clicked on the video. Um, I've also read some. I have reading goals. I went ahead and I did reading goals this year. Um, and I am very conservative with my reading goals. And the reason I do that is because I don't want to set myself up for failure. I know how my life is, and I know what I can handle mentally, approximately. So I set reasonable goals for myself. And if I exceed them, which when I've set reading goals for myself at the beginning of each year, like when I've set them before at the beginning of the year, I usually exceed them. Um, Not by a whole hell of a lot, but like some. There was one year I did very similar reading goals, and I exceeded it by like 5 books, I think. But it was all very reasonable, you know. I factor in the fact that I have a day job. I factor in the fact that I have other stuff that I do. Um, and I just do what I can to find time to read each day. Um, I have a goal right now to read at least one regular book per month, and two comic book collected edition trades, or graphic novels per month. Now, I've also made the decision that you might, and this might be why you want to follow me on Instagram or Storygraph. I made the decision that some reading is going to be for me. Um, some reading is going to be not talked about here. And this is not just reading. I want to experience things and I want to have things that are just mine, that I experience, that I don't have to publish to the world, that I've experienced them. And that's something that's being very important to me this year, that I'm going to be doing that. So you will hear here and there about the different things I read, but you might not all see them here. Um, I'll probably post about reading things on and watching things and what I do. And this goes for just like also watching stuff, like stuff that I watch, stuff that I listen to. It's going to be, everything is probably going to more than likely end up on Instagram, but other stuff, not everything's going to end up here, is what I'm saying. Some of it I'm going to hold tight to myself, with the exception of, like I said, a random post on like Instagram, um, or, updating my story graph, so on and so forth, that kind of thing. So today's book, for the reading vlog today, is a book called, it's a nonfiction book, like I mentioned, and it is about a subject in industrial and corporate history in the United States that I have been wanting to get more in depth in for a while. This is a book directly from my wish list on Amazon. It is The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. The Radium Girls, the dark story of America's shining women. Okay, here it is, boys and girls. It is a thick one. And you know what's really interesting about this is let's see here. I'm gonna tell you just for real. Like let's see here. There's stuff back here. And this is just the beginning. Like this is the backside of the last page of the content. Um like the actual book content. So like this is the book. Now this is a preview of another book of the same author, Kate Moore. Um, and also notes appendix. There's there not an appendix, but an index, notes, a bibliography, um, information about the research, that kind of thing. And there's also a little something that's kind of cool that I've never had in a book like this before, but there's a reading group guide. And you know what I decided actually in this whole process is that I was going to present this to you guys in that way. I'm going to tell you just a little bit about the book. And then what I'm going to do is I'm really just going to sit here and I'm going to answer these questions in the reading group guide. I thought that would be an interesting way to go about this, but okay. So, Radium Girls. The Radium Girls story is basically there's these women, young women. They're all young, older teenagers, young adults that wanted to go to work. And this was in the late teens, early 20s. This is when all this really started. And it goes through a while. And maybe we'll get into that. Maybe I'll leave some of that for you guys to read the book yourselves, because if you're interested at all in corporate industry and how it has screwed over the American worker since the dawn of American industry, you should probably read The Radium Girls, especially if you're a woman who wants to, read more about these brave women. And if you're a man that wants to read more about these brave women that dealt with this horrible injustice that I'm going to tell you a little bit about right now. So the deal is these women wanted to go to work. So if you were a woman back then, you found there wasn't a lot for you to do to be paid. You could eventually become a teacher. You could be a secretary, maybe. And there's not a lot of industries that you could really get into as a young woman, especially a young woman just out of high school. Um, and what they did was they had these companies that would paint the dials of watches and paint the dials of watches and instruments for like planes and stuff like that for the military. With this, they would paint them so that they would glow in the dark. And the luminous paint that they used was paint that the way they got it to glow in the dark was they used a type of radium in the paint. It was a radium powder that got mixed with other compounds and was a paint. Okay. And they would use paintbrushes to paint these dials, and they were all women in warehouses. And the thing is about radium at this time is they were really just really getting to know radium still. And radium was really considered to be like this miracle thing, this miracle drug, or what have you. And people didn't understand then how dangerous radium could be. Whew. Um, so it led the women to, do these jobs, and they get paid by the dial, typically. And it was highly coveted work because it was like you got to sit around and talk and have fun painting dials, and you were, just hanging around talking with your friends, and you made friends with the women you worked with, and these women got paid well as long as they paint. Okay. um and they would go out at night, and maybe, here's the thing, this stuff, the paint powder, the radiant powder, would apparently be very dry, and it would get everywhere. Okay, so women would literally be going home in the evening, and their hair and clothes would be glowing. Okay. They would look like lightning bugs and it would like walking, talking lightning bugs, pretty much. They would glow. And one of the ways that they applied the paint to the dials was with brushes. Well, the thing is there's these little spots that they had to get into with the brushes. Okay. And the brushes would sometimes lose their point. So what do people do in that circumstance? They put it in their mouth to kind of twirl it around and get it to a point again. So like I have these markers. Let's see if I can show it on like, so it would like they would want to try to get it to a point like that again. Um and they would do a technique called lip dip paint. So they would do that, dip it in the paint, and then paint the dial. And they would do that repeatedly, multiple times a day. That's basically getting to the point where they are ingesting radium. Now, long story short, eventually women started getting sick and women started dying because of radium poisoning. Now, we know that now. Now, back then, they didn't really at first realize what was going on. And then when companies started realizing what was going on, then you have all kind of levels of, well, hiding it, squashing it, not taking responsibility. Eventually, um, like I said, the women started dying. The women then started catching on to what was happening to them, and they started to react, and they started to fight back. And this story is about this book centers less upon um, the history of the companies and what happened. They talk about that, but Kate Moore talks about that, but she wanted to center her research around the women and what the women were like. And that's one of the things that is really great about this book is they center it around the women and the women's story amidst the backdrop of everything else going on. So I want to kind of get into this, and I want to answer the questions here. And that's pretty much what the rest of this video is going to be. Um, I've never had something where there was a reading group guide in it, and that's pretty badass awesome. Um, so let's go ahead and get into this. I'm just gonna jump in here. First question is: The Radium Girls is filled with both triumph and tragedy. Which part of the story affected you the most, and why? I'm gonna say right away it was the resilience and bravery of Catherine Donahue. Um, Catherine Donahue, Catherine Wolfe Donahue, was one of the Radium Girls that, um, when, which was something that was really interesting for me, was I grew up in Central Illinois. Okay, so Central Illinois. So like this is if this is Central Illinois, I grew up like here in Henry, and some of these, like the story takes place up here in Ottawa. Yeah, this is horrible representation. But if you're really interested, look at a map. Look at where this little dinky town of Henry, Illinois is, and then look for Ottawa, kind of northeast nearby. You're going to know you're in the right area if you see a slightly bigger town called LaSalle or Peru. Then you're going to want to look over to the east a little bit more, and you're going to find Ottawa. You're also going to know you're on the right track if you see on a map and you see a state park called Starved Rock. Okay. Starved Rock. Sometimes that registers with people even outside of Illinois. So, Starved Rock is in Ottawa. And Ottawa was the location of the Radium Dial Company. And the Radium Dial Company started after the other company, the United States Radium Corporation, that we spend a lot of the book talking about. We spend a lot of the book talking about those two corporations, women from those two corporations. And when it comes down to the idea of women looking for justice, they do a lot of time. They spend a lot of time talking about the women in Ottawa, Illinois, at the Radium Dial Company. And one in which they spend a lot of time with is Catherine Wolfe Donahue, and her story is just, I actually, like, there were points like when they started to really kind of wind down her story that I was moved. I was moved to tears, because the thing is when it comes to Catherine Wolfe Donahue, there's a horrendous tragedy, okay, but intertwined with that tragedy is this triumph of her spirit, of her wanting to fight for what was rightfully hers in this situation. And yeah, I really was very inspired by the story of Catherine Wolfe Donahue and the her husband and her children, and the women that fought with her from the Radium Dial Corporation issue in in Ottawa, Illinois. And um, I was floored by her story. Two, is there a person in the Radium Girls that resonates more strongly with you than others? If so, what part of their story or character stands out? I think I kind of already answered that. Catherine Wolfe Donahue. But you know what? I also got to tell you, On the other end, there was a couple lawyers that they worked with that were these male lawyers. Grossman in Chicago, and then you have Barry um, in, oh gosh, they have pictures in here too. Oh my God, I'm going to find them in the pictures because they're in the pictures. Oh my goodness. No, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure Grossman is in here. I can't remember. Okay, so it's very small, and I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it. There's like a whole section has like pictures, but like that is like Grossman, this dude right here, and he was his name is Leonard Grossman, and he was an attorney in Chicago that was one of these guys that was like, I'm. He was like if he was here today, we'd probably be like, yeah, that dude is an ally. We know he's an ally. Okay. So him, right? That was the dude that helped the women in Ottawa. And then there was another attorney. Um I know the picture's in here. I'm pretty sure they have a picture of him in here. Okay, so Raymond H. Barry. This swell motherfucker right here was the attorney that really got things moving. This small motherfucker right here um, um, got things moving really for the women in New Jersey, in Orange, New Jersey. And I really was like, oh my God, I love these kind of people. These were the kind of people that both of them, all these attorneys were like turning all these women down and everything like that. And it's like the women didn't really have a lot of money to help pay them. Leonard or Leonard Grossman. I don't, if I understood the text correctly, it seems like Leonard did not take payment. He did this pro bono. Mr. Barry took on the girls in New Jersey when no one else would and fought tooth and nail against these very stringent laws involving workman's compensation and statute of limitations. Um, so, like, if they were alive today, if they were around today, they'd be allies. Okay. So like I feel like that might be the case. Couldn't tell for sure because well, of course, they're no longer with us. This is, ages ago. But if they were, I'd like to think that maybe these are the people that we'd be like, they'd be cool motherfuckers. Okay. So besides Catherine, these two attorneys, these two lawyers, like they risked everything to help these women, and thanks guys. Um, Number three, even after radium was proved poisonous and the girls' illnesses verified as work related, the radium companies stood fast by their convictions. Why do you believe they were so resilient? Can you imagine modern companies behaving with similar ruthlessness? Yeah, damn, Skippy, I do. I do believe that companies have only become more emboldened to do things like that. I mean, the thing is like they're more emboldened, but they're doing it in um, more low key ways. The thing is about more modern, especially American corporation, is one of the major processes of operation is how do we screw our workers. Like so, I mean, I I I'm completely fine with people having companies and striving for success, but not at the expense of life, not at the expense of people being, and when I say life, I mean the pursuit of living and living comfortably. Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. Why were they so resilient? Well, because corporations me money and money for where they're at. So, excuse me. That's probably why. Number four, how do you believe the radium companies and the press would have reacted differently to the scandal had the workers been male? Considering the time period, how did the women's gender help and hinder their case? Um, how would they have reacted if it was male? Well, you know what? I think I'm not sure. I think that maybe gender did play a role in this, but I'm not completely sure. And I say this as card carrying feminists, guys. I don't know, because the thing is there's people and then there's corporations, and you have to look at it in that corporations are king. Um, and so I don't think there would have been too much of a difference if men are being screwed versus women in that situation. Um, I think workers get screwed. You know what I mean? So like workers get screwed. Um, Considering the time period, how do you think the women's gender help and hinder their case? Well, hinder. We even see people like this now. There's probably was probably plenty of people that thought they should just shouldn't have been in the workplace at all, and that even exists today. And I think that sometimes the difference in gender might have, I don't know. I think that there based on the way that this was written, it feels like there might have been more tenderness towards the women in in some areas of the press, of the media, and in the courtroom. Um, it was basically like people looked at these women like, these are your sisters, your mothers, your daughters. These are our women. These are people that could be our sister's wife, daughter, mother, that kind of thing. And it was like, nobody disrespects your mama kind of thing. Um, and a lot of these women, some of them were mothers, you know. So there's that as well. How do you think today's world would be different had the Radium Girls not fought back against the radium companies? Well, one of the things they talk about in one of the epilogues, one of the ending things in the book is an epilogue, and it talks about how a lot of safety standards were, all these standards started happening because these women spoke out. OSHA was created partly inspired by what these women went through. Okay. Not only was it OSHA, but when people were developing the atomic bomb and nuclear energy, they looked at what happened to these women, and it helped them be like, okay, we're not going to do this again. We're not going to have this happen. How do we fix this? Um, they went ahead and also throughout the years worked with women that had this experience of working in these factories, and kept tabs on it and test them to see how over the years, because some of them died right away and some of them were able to live, but still had that ticking time bomb of the radium poisoning in them. So a lot of stuff was learned just by these women existing. Um, and a lot of interest, like seriously, there is too much to talk about in this video, and we're already, almost 40 minutes in. Number six, it takes more than 1,500 years for the effects of radium to wear off. This means that the bodies of the women and parts of the towns in which they worked remain poisonous to this day. Considering the harrowing implications, how do you feel this story? Why do you feel this story hasn't been widely explored? Because corporates are key. Corporations are king. Okay. Um, Especially in this time period where you were just supposed to take what happened to you and just deal with it. You know, you were supposed to just take what happened to you and be silent and deal with it. Okay. And when women started speaking out, they were ostracized in their towns, especially because they were speaking out against a corporation that brought so much money and economic, help to their town. And like, people mostly just wanted them to be quiet. And I think when it comes right down to it, once people realized what was happening, people want things to be quiet and people want things to go away when they look bad instead of looking at them so that we don't, history doesn't repeat itself. There are parts of the locations of these factories that the EPA was still cleaning up in 2015. 2015. Now, this is a book published 2016. So, published in 2016. Um, and the last information they had is that as of 2015, which is probably about when she stopped writing this book, when she finished writing this book, they were still cleaning up. When people fuck up, they want to cover it up. And that's why. The Radium Girls is told mostly through the eyes of the radium dial workers, their families, and friends. However, previous research never focused on their personal journeys. How did it change your appreciation of or engagement with the story to know the smaller personal details of the girls' lives? It humanized them even more. I mean, if you have a problem connecting with why things matter, then it's important to understand what's really at stake. Okay. If you have a problem connecting to the why are we talking about this? Well, then it's important to understand what's at stake. If you understand that what's at stake and what is, to lose, that helps people connect with it. That gives it a actual face rather than it just being nameless woman number 1, nameless woman number 5. Like, putting an actual face on it makes it so it matters to those people that have a hard time humanizing and getting it. It's the same idea that when, you hear about people that like can't stand, the LGBTQ community. They are staunchly, upset about it and everybody's going to hell, blah 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 blah. And then all of a sudden someone they love in their life comes out of the closet to them. And they have to look at it in a different way. It's kind of like that. And all of a sudden they start being like, oh, well, crap. It's called a come to Jesus moment. Come to it's the light bulb over their head. Boom, you know. And it's giving people a face, a story, a background. It raises the risks. It raises the stakes. 'Cause you can't hide the fact that people suffered. 8. Is there another historical event you've noticed women being pushed to the sidelines every fucking day? Um, I mean, let's be real about this, guys. I mean, the women had to wait until some of the women were working in these companies without the right to vote in this country. Let's keep that real here right now. Number 9. You okay, hold on. Let's go back again. Um it's this movie called PCU where these people are in a line talking about how they've been oppressed, and like different people are saying, well, I'm this and this happens to me, and then this other group is like, well, I'm this and this happens to me, and then you get to the feminists and they're like, well, I'm a woman and subject to persecution wherever I go throughout the world. You know, that's yeah. Um, although radium can be seen as an evil entity in the book, it's also been used for greater good. Explore how radium has changed the world in a positive way. Do you feel it was worth the sacrifice? Yes. I don't think it was worth the sacrifice. Um I think once people realized what it was doing to people, which if you read this book, there are definitely times where they realized what it was doing to these women and they kept it secret. Um, Radium is not an evil entity. Radium is a thing that occurs in science and in nature. Um, it's an element in the periodic table. Radium cannot be evil. People can be evil. People can be evil. Radium is not evil. Besides radium, what other world-altering discoveries can can you think of that led to both advancement and tragedy? Nuclear energy. Along the same lines. Let's see here, advancement and tragedy. Just any time that a thing has advanced society, but also had an element of danger to it. Airplane travel. Um, um, Nuclear submarines, all kinds of stuff. How were you inspired by the strength of the Shining Girls, and how can you carry that onward to incite change in your own life? Advocate for yourself. If you feel like you're being screwed and in life, in your job, in whatever, people are holding you down or whatever, um, and you've asked yourself all the reasonable questions to make sure you're not overreacting or whatever. You've done the legwork. You're asking yourself all the right questions, and you still feel like you're getting screwed. Advocate for yourself in the doctor's office, in work, anywhere. If you see something, say something. I say it at the end of every video, practically the end of every video, all of my longer form videos. So we will use that question to do that. Before I do that, I want to recommend to you to read The Radium Girls by Kate Moore. I want to recommend to you to look into the history of the Radium Dial Company. Luminous Processes, and the United States Radium Corporation, just to name three that come up in the book. I urge you to look into that history, look into how you could make things better in your community, and keep reading and read this book seriously, and be inspired. These women, as the book says, did not die in vain. While they shouldn't have died, they did not die. While they should not have died the way they did not die in vain. So, this is the officially unofficial Geek channel. This is the reading vlog. My name is Carrie Quinn, and until next time, more than ever, and perhaps also because of this book, keep your eyes and ears open. If you see something, say something. And remember, the complacent never make a difference. So go out there and make a difference. Don't be complacent if you're getting screwed. Because the complacent will just continue to get screwed. Until next time, I'll be seeing ya. Bye.